If you're someone who would rather stay at home than go out, it's probably not because you're lazy, nor is it because you're antisocial. There's actually a deeper psychological reason behind it, and once you see it, it's very hard to unsee it. You cancel plans and you feel relieved. You tell yourself you're going to go out more, then you don't. You tell yourself that you're going to make an effort to make more plans with people, but then weeks go by and you realize that you didn't actually do it. And listen, I'm calling you out, but I'm also calling myself out. The reason I wanted to dive into this episode is because this is also very much me, right? I am very happy being on my own. And I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to a similar feeling where you enjoy your alone time, you enjoy being at home, but there's this quiet nagging feeling that you're not putting enough effort into your external relationships, and there's this pang of anxiety that there's going to be something negative that comes out of it and you want to change. And as I've said a million times over, we cannot address what we're not aware of. So let's dive into exactly what it is that is driving this behavior in the first place. Most people think being a homebody is just a personality, but it actually runs a little deeper than that. Psychology suggests that someone who is a homebody and kind of embodies those traits are exhibiting a mix of comfort, control, and subtle avoidance. This isn't just who you are, this is a pattern that your brain has learned. And the first piece I want to talk about is energy conservation. Your brain is wired to conserve energy. It is wired to take the easiest route possible in order to save your energy and save you stress and make things easier on you, because when we strip it down to the absolute basics, your brain's main goal is not to have you be the most popular person in your friend circle and have you have all these parties on your calendar. Your brain's goal is for you to survive. That's it. That's all. And so it is going to pick the paths that are most advantageous for that. It's going to pick what's familiar. It's going to pick what's easy. It's going to pick what has the least amount of friction. And it makes a lot of sense, right? Because when survival is your main goal, it makes perfect sense why your brain is going to try and eliminate anything that's going to waste unnecessary energy. Because if we go back thousands of years, wasting unnecessary energy could be the difference between life and death. So staying somewhere safe was predictable, and it was advantageous for your survival. And fast forwarding to nowadays, staying somewhere safe and predictable means staying at home. The second part of this I want to talk about is dopamine. And again, a little caveat to this, dopamine is not a pleasure chemical specifically. Dopamine is your motivation chemical. Dopamine is what happens when your brain is anticipating a reward. It's anticipating something good, and therefore it's going to give you dopamine to motivate you to seek it out. Okay, so it's not just something that you get when you do something that's enjoyable. It's something that you get to push you to seek out the enjoyable thing. Okay? So, how this is impacting you and making you stay at home is because in the past, dopamine required effort. You had to hunt, you had to explore, you had to socialize, you had to go out and make a legitimate effort in order to get the resources that your brain is wanting you to get, in order to get the rewards, okay? And so the dopamine that would get released from your brain thousands of years ago to prompt you to go and hunt your dinner, to prompt you to go and find a tribe, to prompt you to go and find a safe place to build a shelter. These all require a lot of effort. But again, survival was the main goal, so your brain will give you the dopamine to push you to do it. We fast forward to today. You experiencing things that are going to bring you comfort and pleasure are much more abundant than they used to be. And so your brain is not waiting for an opportunity for you to be able to hunt your dinner to give you a boost of dopamine. Instead, your brain is looking around and seeing a TV, a gaming console, a phone, the ability to order food right to your door, food that is hyper palatable. It sees a comfy bed, it sees a comfy couch, it sees this entire comfy space that you're very familiar with and you feel very safe in. And all around it is sources of pleasure and sources of comfort. And so your brain is saying, hey, I want all of these things. I want to push you to go and engage with all of these things because they're going to feel good. And I know they're going to feel good. And so it's going to keep giving you boosts of dopamine to motivate you to go and engage with those things. Whereas if we compare that to going out and socializing and stepping into slightly unfamiliar territory and doing something that maybe causes a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of discomfort, your brain's not gonna like that as much, right? Because again, it's looking for the path of least resistance, right? It's looking for the path that saves the most energy, is going to be the most comfortable, and the most beneficial for your survival. And so it's not going to give you as much dopamine to go out and socialize the way that it's going to give you dopamine to stay at home and do something very comfy. Okay? And so you see where your motivation to do these things is being dictated by the amount of dopamine your brain is giving you for each of these tasks. Because it's a constant comparison, right? Between going out that requires effort and some element of uncertainty, and staying at home, which is a guaranteed instant reward because you have all these things around. So we've basically created these environments that perfectly hijack our survival system and keep us stuck in them. And this is good to know, right? Because when you know that your brain is intentionally driving you to do these things, and this is why you feel that pull to engage with these activities more than going out and socializing, it's easier to do something about it, right? It's easier to get control of that narrative, and because now you have an understanding of why you might be lacking motivation to do it in the first place. The third piece of this is control and psychological safety. As we've kind of touched on, as humans, we crave predictability. Because again, thousands of years ago, what did predictability mean? It meant you'd survive, right? It meant there was no surprise lions coming out of the bushes. It meant there was no surprise famines. There was no surprise weather disasters that were going to eliminate your entire tribe. No surprises was good. And what is the ultimate package of predictability? It's your home, right? Your environment is predictable. Nobody's there to judge you. Nobody's there to tell you what to do. Everything is familiar to you. All the routines are familiar to you. All of the things that you like to engage with on a regular basis are there. Everything's predictable. You control every single element. There's no surprises. Whereas outside, there's potential surprises, right? There's potential uncertainty. It could be with the people that you're interacting with. It could be in the location that you're interacting with them in. There are all these different elements of it that create little pockets of uncertainty and little opportunities for surprises. Now, listen, some of these surprises might be good, right? I'm not saying that you going out and socializing with your friends is inherently unenjoyable or bad. It's probably really fun, right? Any surprises that come up along the way are more than likely to be a good thing, but your brain doesn't know that, right? Your brain doesn't know that potential surprises are going to be potential good surprises versus potential bad surprises. All it sees is unpredictability and uncertainty. And your brain doesn't like that because your brain is wired to interpret uncertainty as danger. Whether that uncertainty is going to be good or not, it doesn't know the difference. It just sees danger. So of course, staying home feels better, right? It makes a lot of sense when you frame it through that lens because it's safe. It is your safety net. The fourth piece of this is avoidance, because your brain is more wired to avoid discomfort than it is to seek out pleasure. I want you to think about any of the actions you take in your life. Majority of them are done in a fashion that helps you avoid any sort of discomfort or pain, more than seeking out pleasure. Even the things that may inherently seem like they're pleasure seeking are actually a form of discomfort avoidance. Even things like going and grabbing food from the fridge when you feel hungry. It may seem like pleasure seeking because the food tastes good, it's going to bring you a lot of pleasure, you're going to feel good when you're eating it. But really what it is it is the avoidance of the discomfort that arises when you feel hungry, right? It's the avoidance of the discomfort that you feel when you want food and can't get it. Your brain is trying to avoid that discomfort, and so it gives you dopamine to motivate you to seek out food, to make that uncomfortable feeling go away. Your brain is very good at pushing you to avoid discomfort. So, how can this work in the setting of you choosing to stay home? I want you to imagine for a second, I'm going to give you a very common scenario because I think we've probably all done this. Let's say you make plans with friends, and the day's coming up, or it's already the day and the time you're supposed to meet them is coming up, and you're starting to feel some anxiety. Right? Might be because of the uncertainty. Maybe you haven't seen this person in a long time. Maybe you're going somewhere new. Whatever it is, maybe you have a little bit of social anxiety just in general. And so you feel some discomfort. And then either this friend texts you and cancels plans, or you text them and cancel the plans. And suddenly, all of this anxiety, all of this discomfort that you felt about the scenario, gone. Immediately gone, right? Immediate relief from it because you're no longer meeting them, right? Any anxiety that you felt about the potential uncertainty of that scenario no longer needs to exist. And you feel this sense of relief, which becomes this cycle of negative reinforcement because now your brain starts to learn when I cancel plans or when people cancel plans with me, I feel relief. I feel safe. My anxiety goes away, right? And so that ends up being the pattern that you crave because you have reinforced this behavior by feeling relief from your negative emotions. So your brain starts to learn that pattern, that avoidance equals relief and staying in equals safety. So you go out less, your tolerance for discomfort starts to slowly go down, and staying at home becomes your default. And I've actually talked about this in a previous episode because there was a massive event that happened that is contributing to this phenomenon for every single one of us. And that was the pandemic, right? We were forced to stay at home for a very prolonged period of time. And so any anxiety we had about going out and social interactions immediately relieved because we didn't have the option to. We were forced to stay at home. And what happened over that time, whether we realized it or not, was that our tolerance for discomfort in that particular realm was slowly going down. And so now social engagements that pre-pandemic wouldn't have seemed like a very big deal now cause us a lot more discomfort because your tolerance for it has gone down. And so the inclination becomes a lot more for you to avoid those scenarios than it was before because, again, your brain's trying to avoid discomfort and now this thing causes you way more discomfort than it used to. I'm sure there's a lot of you listening who experienced a phenomenon like this where post-COVID, even going to the grocery store caused you a ton of anxiety. Something that pre-2020 you wouldn't have even thought about, right? You needed groceries, you would have just hopped in your car and gone to get them. And now it's something that causes a massive amount of stress to you and something that you actively have to push through, right? Same thing goes for any social outing and any social engagement. The good thing about this, though, is that your tolerance for this discomfort can go down gradually, but it can also go up, right? If you continue to push yourself to engage in slightly uncomfortable social outings, social interactions, your tolerance for that discomfort will start to go back up and these things won't feel so scary, right? And again, you may have experienced this already with the grocery shopping example because, well, you need groceries. So it's not just like you can avoid eating unless you have just gone and started ordering all of your groceries online, which I'm sure a lot of people have, myself included. So who am I to judge? But if you're someone who has pushed themselves to go back out and start doing these things on a repeated basis, you've probably found that at a certain point, they stopped causing you so much anxiety and they started to just feel like a normal part of your routine. And you can do this with your social outings as well, right? Find small ways to introduce them back into your routine. Maybe it's meeting a friend for a really short period of time. Maybe it's meeting them somewhere that's already really familiar and really safe to you so that you feel comfortable in some sort of way. Maybe you have certain friends that you feel a lot more comfortable engaging with and choosing to see those people more often than people that cause you more anxiety, right? And you can kind of slowly work your way back up and rebuild that tolerance so you engaging in any sort of social interaction and stepping out of your house for whatever reason does not feel so scary. And even doing things that don't involve socializing with other people can help to build that tolerance back up. If even stepping foot outside of your house is stressful and uncomfortable for you, even just going outside and walking around the block and coming home is going to help to slowly increase that discomfort tolerance, right? Just exposing yourself to these things bit by bit in a way that's manageable. That's actually kind of your best approach to do it because another thing that'll happen is if you try to do way too much all at once. Let's say, for example, you're someone who hasn't left their house in a very long time and the concept of doing that feels very scary. And you push yourself into a huge situation. Let's say you go to this huge festival or party with tons of people that you're not super familiar with, tons of things that cause you a lot of stress. There is a higher chance that you are going to have a negative experience because you've done too much change too fast. And what will happen as a result of that is your brain will start to associate outings and experiences under that umbrella with negativity, because now you've had a negative experience as a result of your stress, and it will push you even harder to not do that again. Because like we just talked about, your brain is very good at avoiding discomfort, and that is its main driver in where it directs your energy in the things that you do. And so if you push yourself too hard too fast and it becomes a negative experience because of that, it's going to be even harder to do it the next time around. So your best approach is really to slowly step your way into it. Slowly wade into the water from the shallow end. Don't cannonball into the deep end, right? Because when you do it bit by bit and you do small steps at a time, you're more likely to have a good experience because you're not overloading yourself. You're just introducing a little bit at a time, and then you'll have a good experience. It won't be uncomfortable. It won't be unenjoyable. And your brain goes, maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe I can do this again. And then you do it again and you add a little bit more and you keep doing that and you keep flowing that wave. And then suddenly, big giant outings, not as scary as they used to be. Now, there is a personality component to this. Some of us are naturally just more introverted people and we need more time alone to recharge after social outings. But this isn't just a personality trait related thing. Even extroverts can become homebodies with the right conditioning. And given the events in the last several years, I think we've all been through the conditioning that would turn us into homebodies even if we weren't before. And so this is where it gets interesting because a lot of people who are homebodies and enjoy staying at home also feel like they should be doing more. And so they're sitting in this constant tension between comfort and growth. And it causes this lingering anxiety that you have a really hard time pinpointing and getting rid of. And if that's you, these are all things that I want you to keep in mind because you might not just be a homebody. You might be someone who has optimized their life for comfort, but at the cost of expansion. The same patterns and habits that are protecting you are also the ones that are limiting you. And again, this doesn't mean that you need to change all your patterns and change your personality and change all these things overnight. You don't need to go from being a homebody to being hypersocial. Honestly, just the awareness piece in and of itself is a big deal and is going to be a huge catalyst for you being able to make change. Because now you know, right? Now you have some insight as to why you're doing the things that you do, and it's going to become easier to catch yourself in the moment and say, wait a minute, I see what my brain is doing here. Maybe I push back a little bit and try to expand my experience of life beyond just the four walls of my home. And you can start making conscious efforts to bring that sense of safety that you feel at home to other environments. Because ultimately the goal is not that you eliminate comfort, right? I don't want you to just step into a life of stress and discomfort and shittiness all the time. That sucks. That's not the goal. That's not what I'm telling you to do. The goal is to just make sure that the pursuit of comfort is not controlling your life. There's nothing wrong with being a homebody. There's nothing wrong with preferring to stay at home and spending most of your time doing that, unless it's stopping you from becoming the person that you want to be. So I want you to reflect. I want you to take some time to think about, are you somebody who tends to stay home a lot more than they go out? Are you someone who has a really hard time stepping into new environments? Are you someone who chooses safety and comfort over the things that you want to do? Are you someone who is constantly sitting in that tension of feeling safe at home, but also feeling like they should be doing a little bit more? And if that's you, keep this episode as a reminder. Listen to it when you need it, and give yourself that reassurance that this is not just you, this is not just your personality, this is not something that's set in stone. This is just conditioning that you've learned over time, and it's something that you can take steps to improve. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.